Donald Trump could win the Republican nomination, but that he would need to pivot a little bit. Quoting here, the post-pivot Trump needs to be more presidential, better informed on policy, more self-discipline, less thin-skinned. Historian Bert Folsom on that. They always talk about Donald Trump being an acquired taste. We've had other candidates who ran for president who were acquired taste. They really didn't change their mojo very much when they became president. In other words, what you got early on was what you got in the Oval Office, and with mixed success. But it takes a lot for someone to completely change their basic DNA, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does. What you see in a presidential contender before he or she is president is what you see when that person is in the White House. And we've seen that on many occasions, Neil.
Andrew Jackson is the one president who has been most often compared to being Trump-like, or shall I say Andrew Jackson-like, in that he was a controversial figure, one who had been, if you heard it back in those days, robbed by the establishment, comes storming back, and was not exactly everyone's cup of tea. Does that analogy hold? Did Andrew Jackson ever change once he got in?
Andrew Jackson was a very rough and tumble frontiersman, and he remained that way to his whole life. He killed a man in a duel. He was an Indian fighter. He was shot by future Senator Thomas Hart Benton and barely survived. When he got in the White House, South Carolina was threatening to not pay their taxes on imports, the tariff. And when Jackson heard that, he threatened to send troops in and was even talking about hanging someone for treason. So Jackson followed that through into his presidency.
And he was considered, in retrospect, as a president, one of our greatest. So I guess what I'm asking you is, when we make a big deal about presumed character flaws, the New York Post mentioned them, others have mentioned them, in Donald Trump, could those work in his favor, that no-nonsense Jacksonian style, if he were to become president?
Yes, it could, because Jackson was very much admired for his right-on integrity and his honesty and his forthright speech. And it's also useful to remember the whole federal budget was not only balanced, but the national debt disappeared during Jackson's presidency.
Now,